The public is conditioned to stare at the sky, waiting for the kinetic signature of a missile launch. This is a fundamental misreading of the modern threat vector. The launch on warning protocol for the 21st century is not kinetic. It is silent. The global financial architecture, its stocks, its liquidity, its inflation markers, does not run on paper. It runs on light through undersea fiber optic cables. Reports from RUSI confirm these are the primary targets for asymmetric warfare. Severing these vectors is not an act of war. It is an act of systemic liquidation, triggering a global solvency crisis. The second vector is orbital, satellite blinding. The objective is not destruction, but induced chaos. Ground-based lasers and anti-satellite assets analyzed by CSIS are not designed to create debris fields. They are designed to sever the optic nerve of an economy, blinding GPS, transaction timing, and military navigation. This two-pronged assault creates the blind Leviathan, a superpower with unmatched military force, but no data, no sight, no financial solvency. A state apparatus rendered a liability to itself. When a power cannot win on the prescribed battlefield, as the Atlantic Council notes in Ukraine, the protocol is to escalate by attacking the system itself. Weakness becomes the ultimate accelerant. The equation governing modern lethality is now brutally simple. The Royal United Services Institute, or RUSI, has mapped the protocol. A $5 million main battle tank, a kinetic asset representing decades of industrial and financial power, is now a liability. It can be located, targeted, and liquidated by a $500 first-person view drone. The math is not a suggestion, it's a verdict. This is not a 10-to-1 or 100-to-1 cost imbalance. It is a 10,000-to-1 asymmetric leverage. This economic inversion guarantees that any actor facing conventional failure will not retreat. They will escalate. This is the democratization of violence. The term is clinical. It signifies the collapse in the barrier to entry for inflicting systemic damage. When an actor like Russia cannot achieve victory on the prescribed battlefield, as the Atlantic Council confirms, it pivots. It uses this new economic reality to attack the system itself. The targets shift from military formations to power grids, grain terminals, and civilian morale, creating a national-level solvency crisis. Perceived weakness on the conventional front becomes the primary accelerant for an asymmetric attack on the core functions of a state. It is a mathematical certainty. Launch on warning is not a strategy. It is a mathematical protocol born from a zero-sum calculation. The doctrine mandates a retaliatory nuclear launch based solely on data indicating an inbound attack. Confirmation of impact is not required. The kinetic window between detection and decapitation is under 30 minutes. Waiting for proof means risking the total liquidation of your command structure and retaliatory arsenal. This protocol is the system's primary vulnerability. It creates the fog of digital war. A rival actor, unable to win a conventional engagement, has no incentive to build 1,000 missiles. They are incentivized to launch one cyber attack that blinds your early warning radar. This is the ultimate asymmetric vector, creating the perception of 1,000 incoming missiles with minimal kinetic cost. If the radar is blind, the commander is forced to launch out of fear. The protocol demands it. The choice becomes simple. Initiate a launch based on potentially false data, or bet the nation's existence that it's a bluff. CSIS analysis confirms this weaponizes an enemy's own deterrence logic against them. This is not a failure of the system. It is a feature being exploited. This mechanism makes perceived weakness the primary accelerant for systemic risk. As the Atlantic Council reports, an actor unable to win on the battlefield escalates against civilian targets. The blueprint is identical for digital warfare. A state perceived as incapable or distracted, as NATO is warned it could be without U.S. support, invites asymmetric probes against its digital infrastructure. The objective is to trigger a solvency crisis, not just on the battlefield, but in the command bunker itself. When an actor cannot win on the prescribed battlefield, asymmetric escalation is not a choice. It is a protocol. Analysts at the Atlantic Council confirm this mechanism. Facing conventional failure, the mandatory pivot is to attack civilian infrastructure. This vector is activated by perceived weakness. With reports from RUSI confirming that key defensive blocks are incapable of self-defense without external guarantors, the conditions for an asymmetric probe are met. The objective is not kinetic victory, but a systemic solvency crisis, targeting stocks, oil, and inflation. The mandatory next phase is a calibration shot to test the system's response latency. Within 12 months, anticipate a multi-system failure at a strategic maritime logistics hub. A cyber event will cripple port operations, presented as a ransomware attack. Simultaneously, a localized grid failure will be attributed to domestic actors, leveraging what Fox News reports as mob mentality to create plausible deniability. This will not be an act of war. It is a mathematical test of economic launch-on-warning protocols.